Greetings from Canada and the UK. We're excited to be here today with you. My name is Alex Hocevar. I'll be moderating this discussion. We're really excited to have Chris Sonnemann from the Ballet, Annette Mees from the Royal Opera House, and Jason Hunter from Sheridan College. Before we begin, I'd just like to do a land acknowledgement statement and recognize that the National Ballet of Canada offices are located in Toronto, Ontario, also known as Tekaronto, which in Kanenkehaka means the place in the water where the trees are standing. It is a privilege for us to work, live, play, and create art on the traditional lands of the Wendat people of the island, the Anishinaabeg original people, the Haudenosaunee people of the Longhouse, and the Mississaugas of the Credit, River of the North of many mouths. Toronto is now an international hub with many diverse people who call this place home. That being said, we recognize, support, and celebrate the enduring presence of Indigenous people on this land. We reflect on the 94 calls to action contained in the Truth and Reconciliation Report, and we commit to continue learning, educating, and healing. We will continue working towards our commitment to the principles of reconciliation, decolonization, and inclusivity. We believe in the strength of the arts to aid us in creating a better world for us all. So we're here to talk to you about a project called Expanding the Canvas, which is a small project within a series of a whole bunch of other projects that we'll get into in a few minutes. And so we're going to take the next 30 minutes or so to walk you through exactly what the project is, how it's going, and what some of our outcomes are going to be. So I'll start a relatively free-flowing conversation amongst the four of us. And each of Chris, Annette, and Jason will have an opportunity to introduce themselves and answer a few questions. So let's start with Chris. Chris, can you first off tell us a bit about yourself and then go into what exactly is Expanding the Canvas and how is it undertaken?
Okay, my name is Chris Sonnemann. I'm the Director of Technology for the National Ballet of Canada. And for those with visual impairment, for accessibility purposes, I'm a tall white male with a black shirt, didn't shave, short hair, in a light room. So Expanding the Canvas is a subset project of a larger project that was fully funded through Canada Council. And the focus was on the adoption of digital technologies in the arts. So Canada Council set aside a fund to allow performing arts and culture organizations an opportunity to dive into technology that they normally wouldn't focus on. And they essentially created three streams. One was around literacy, one was around accessibility, and then the last one was around digital transformation. This particular project is around openness and accessibility. And the purpose of the project is how can we expand the reach of arts and culture organizations and make our content, information, and our organizations more accessible using digital technology. The focus on the project covers sort of a wide gamut, content creation and innovation, distribution, storage, and it really focuses on the adoption of these different technologies. So as we were sort of diving into the different technologies, it occurred to me that we had a bunch of IT people sitting at a table discussing technology and how to use it in the arts. The realization was that we're not the people to be discussing this, that we can tell you what it does, but we can't tell you how to use it. And so this idea of what if we found really smart, creative people and gave them access to technology that they would normally never get a hold of, and ask the simple question, if you had this, what would you do with it? How would you use this to change the storytelling, increase the storytelling, change the stagecraft? What would you do with these technologies? And as part of this project, we actually partnered with Sheridan College and the Technical Access Center, which is CIRT, Screen Industries Research and Training.
Research and Training Center, you got it.
Hey, there we go. And CERT's Innovation Hub, which just focuses on the use of new and emerging technologies, VR, AR, motion capture, you name it. They sort of dive into all of these different pieces. And also the Canadian Music Theatre Project, which focuses on creation of performances. So together, it sort of made sense to take these bodies and bring them together and then reach out to the organizations, the Canadian Opera Company, the Royal Opera and Royal Ballet, and say, let's get really smart people together and give them this technology and see what it is that they can do. So Annette was one of the first people I reached out to, because Annette does this at the Royal and she's quite good at it. So said, hey, what do you think about this idea? And this turned into a larger project for us. And that's really what you're going to see now, is this idea of how do we expand the canvas that we work with, and what do we do with these technologies? And here are some great creative people that we're going to have explore different types of technologies.
Great. Thank you. Awesome intro. So Annette, over to you. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, how the Royal Opera House became involved, and what value do you see in this international collaboration?
My name is Annette Mees, and I'm the head of audience labs at the Royal Opera House. And that's really a department that is dedicated to this kind of work. So we look at immersive new technologies and bring together technologists and opera and ballet creatives to really see, how do we make great art using this technology? How do we use it to expand where opera and ballet can be, who gets to make it, where it can be seen, all of the questions of the expansion and the opening up of the art forms in new ways. So I met Chris when he was visiting London several moons ago now, a couple of years ago. And we started talking because I think we are both really interested in this space. And I think one of the exciting things is that this is not a question for a single institution. This is almost a sectoral question. How do the performing arts respond to these emerging technologies? How do we create space for artists to experiment with it? How do we use these opportunities to create beautiful work that reaches new and diverse audiences? How do we create new creative teams that have the technical expertise and the artistic expertise to create great performances in new ways? So when Chris suggested this collaboration, for me, that was really exciting, because I think when we look at technology, it's not only about what we make at the end of it, it's also how we make it and with whom we make it. What are the new processes that allow for the creative development and the technical development to go hand in hand and really grow up together in a piece of work that is neither driven by technology nor where technology is stuck onto a pre-existing piece of work? How do we create for these technological stages? And if we do it in a new way, it also means that we can collaborate in new ways with new people. So our program really looks at diversity and inclusion, but also at new kinds of partnerships. So to be able, during a pandemic, to create work, and not only create work, but to cross an ocean in collaboration, I think was really exciting to me.
Great. Thanks, Annette. And finally, Jason. Jason, tell us a little bit about yourself and the Screen Industries Research and Training Center.
So my name is Jason Hunter, and I'm the production lead over at the CERT Center. We're a division of Sheridan College, a research arm. But we don't teach any classes there. Our focus is really on helping the industry innovate. And the industry is anyone who deals with screens. So it could be film, television, mobile, video games, VR. Everything has a screen these days. So what we really focus on is kind of optimizing new workflows and giving access to technology for companies. We're also a technology access center, which is a federally designated access center for Canada. And it means that we have a lot of the big cutting edge toys, I guess, in our in our stage, and we try to provide access to companies who might be thinking of developing new workflows or thinking of implementing something new like VR or 360 video, motion capture, or virtual production, which has been very big in 2020. So yeah, this project has been a really great experience to kind of work with creatives and artists who have, you know, much bigger imaginations than companies who might be focused on a particular aspect of their workflow, and really just utilize the technology in a more kind of engaging, blossoming way. And it's been really cool to sort of see, you know, things like motion capture that we use for character animation or things like that be transformed to something that can be on the stage or presented to wider audiences. So it's been really interesting so far.
Great, thanks, Jason. So on that technology, Chris and Jason, can the two of you touch a little bit on what kind of technologies are being tested in this project, and how do you think that those technologies can begin to affect the performing arts sector? Maybe we'll start with Chris, and then we'll go to Jason.
Well, I mean, there's a wide range of technologies that are being tested, and you know, something as simple which has been transformative just during COVID is Zoom itself as a tool for collaboration. This idea that we can have, we had last week a group of artists get together with a choreographer and start to get to know each other and discuss and talk about one of the pieces that they're going to perform, and walk through the process and show them what the information is. And these dancers were scattered all over North America. So the simple fact that, you know, from an environmental impact, you can, instead of having to have everyone in one room, we can now be anywhere in the world and in a moment's notice start to have a conversation and do a deep dive into artistic process and artistic creation and you know, vision right away, and start to work with these individuals and figure out ways in which we can then connect. Then you add in some of the newer technologies like the large video screens that we're looking at, the LCD or LED screens, which add that ability now to take the artwork anywhere you can imagine, right? You don't need to be on location. You don't need to be in a hall. You don't need to be, you know, outside. You can create any kind of environment that you see fit and place it in that environment. And because of the types of technology that we're looking at, it can be real time, it can be responsive, and it can be anything. Once again, drastically reducing environmental impact, the need to travel, and the ability to just, what is your imagination? How far do you want to take it? You can shoot an environment and then take that environment and put it behind you. Or you can create a whole new world if you wish. So these types of tools, which you've seen in video games and online, are technologies now that in the hands of really wildly creative people can transform an artistic piece and take audience in places that they could never have been before in ways that they couldn't possibly imagine. So it's really quite fascinating to see what those potentials are. And that's just some of the technology that we're looking at. The other idea is looking at something like motion capture, the ability for a choreographer to digitally record their movements and then take that and send it to someone and say, here, look at this, watch this, and learn it. And they can look at it from any possible angle. These tools then become opportunities to create new ways in which you can teach or record for posterity or whatever it is. There's just so so many options and opportunities within this. And we're just scratching the surface of some of these ideas. So it's really quite exciting to see. Jason?
Yeah, I mean, seeing some of that, that's a great segue there, Chris. Like seeing the way that the artists kind of interpret what we've supplied in terms of technology or what we have available to us, and then thinking of how they want to use it has been a really interesting part of this project for me, because we, early on we held a workshop to sort of showcase what we have at the CERT stage at Toronto Pinewood Studios, and it was hard to imagine what they would conceive out of seeing motion capture, seeing 360 cameras, seeing ambisonic audio recorders, and just being able to take that kind of toolkit and expand it into their own medium has been really exciting to sort of see. In addition to production tools like motion capture and LED walls that Chris has mentioned, we're also looking at things like brain sensing waves to kind of monitor activity of the brain or of the body, and seeing how that might translate to a performance piece. So really just kind of taking tools that are designed for one thing and really finding the artistic side of it has been a great part of this exploration.
Great. And Annette, you obviously have the most experience in the performing arts for anybody that's on screen right now. Can you maybe talk a little bit about how you've seen some of this technology in action in the performing arts and how it may be affecting some level of change?
There's so much going on at the moment. I think that's what makes it really exciting. I think it feels like we're in quite early days. It feels like the technology is really maturing in a way that allows artists to experiment. But if I had to break it down, I think obviously we've all seen streaming. It's there, it's here, it's been everywhere during COVID. We've all watched plays and performances from home. But I think what we're seeing now is that we're really starting to push beyond the broadcast and into work that's being made for and with these platforms. I often talk about technology. It's just another stage, a stage that we can make work for. And I think what's exciting about the performance sector is it's sort of what technology is looking at right now collectively as well. It's about shared experiences, about liveness, about connecting people, about having emotional and beautiful experiences. So we have new tools, and we're sort of exploring what's the most beautiful and the most exciting and the most meaningful thing we can do with that. And I feel like the performance sector has a lot to offer there. So what we're seeing is projects that experiment with live capture. So imagine dancers or performers sometimes in motion capture suits. The RSC did a big experiment called Dream, where there were live performers performing for an audience at home, being motion captured and put into a digital world, creating a whole new possibility. I think the second thing that we're seeing is using technology to break out of the walls of our building. So what does it mean to create an opera that is not meant to be on stage, but meant to be in an installation or 3D projected somewhere? And how can it travel into festivals, in fields? How can we, as cultural buildings, create work that can travel the world and meet audiences in different kind of places and in new ways, whether that's on your phone or in an installation in a market square. We just made a hyper reality opera where the audience steps into a physical set, but then dons VR gear and gets to physically walk into a multi-sensory world while they're exploring the opera. We see the Finnish opera is working on this beautiful dome project where audiences are sort of immersed in a 3D projection mapped world. There's a lot of experimentation with how do we break out of our stages and make in new ways. And then finally, and I think equally importantly, I think there's a lot of work going on around accessibility. So how do we use new technologies for visually impaired audiences? How do we enhance access and make it possible for more audiences to fully access artistic work.
Great, thanks. Jason, you've mentioned a couple times that a lot of this technology is used in other sectors. Can you maybe take a couple of pieces of technology and give us examples of how it's being used elsewhere?
Sure. Well, when it comes to production or virtual production gear, I think the most obvious industry is, of course, entertainment. Things like the LED walls that we're using actually came out of advertising. So most of these kind of large scale video displays that we see are first born on outdoor billboards or the sides of buildings that you would see kind of advertising or just descriptions of different buildings and companies. And those kind of came into fruition recently as the cost of hardware goes down and the video industry realized that, like, hey, we could film on that and then optimize our post-production process. Another big one was motion capture that we talked about, and everyone's very familiar with that, the use of motion capture in animation for CG characters and in the film world. But that technology actually comes from the study of the human body and the study of human motion. So it actually comes from early physiotherapy kind of space where we're just trying to understand how the body moves. And with the advent of other technologies like audio recording, facial performance recording, we've kind of morphed from motion capture to what we call performance capture now. So it's not just the motion of somebody's body, but it's the full performance of an actor or performer's body movement, their speech, and their full facial muscles at this point is what we're able to capture now. So a lot of these technologies have evolved from many different spaces and then are also utilized in other industries. Training, of course, being a big one. So especially the advent of virtual reality or augmented reality has allowed companies to put their employees or personnel into spaces that would have otherwise been dangerous. So for example, firefighting or nuclear reactor engineering, things like that, where you would typically be training on site or on real life created doubles of, say, a nuclear reactor, which would be an expensive space to build and bring people towards, can now all be done virtually. And often with more precision, in fact, and with more consequences with things in virtual and gamifying things like that. So really, there's like a wide range of industries that all of these different technologies touch on. We didn't even mention the brain sensing stuff, which can be used for both meditation, for well-being, things like that. And now we're taking the artistic spin of seeing what can we visually look at of our brain waves instead of just data points. Can we make something more beautiful out of that?
Great. Thanks, Jason. So all of us experience technology in different ways in our day-to-day lives, and I think everybody watching has had the moment where they want to throw their phone or their computer out the window, and that's no different with some of the technologies that we're talking about here. And so, Annette and Chris, can the two of you talk about some of the challenges that you've seen presented to artists with the use of this technology, and maybe how some of it's been overcome?
Want me to go first?
Go for it.
Yeah.
So far, what I've seen, I think the biggest issue is just the understanding of what is out there. And I mean, as an IT person, as a technology person, I have trouble keeping up with the amount of technology that's going on. And I'm immersed in it all the time, and I'm trying to read up and understand and sort of dive into all this stuff. So, take that and then transpose that on an individual who doesn't do technology. It becomes rather complex. So just the entry into technology is rather daunting because there's so much out there that you need to understand and what's applicable, not even getting into cost, but just the sheer volume of different technologies that are available. And so and Annette actually brought it up in one of the meetings, which was it's not, the artist doesn't need to be the one to know what it can or can't do. They have the idea, and it's the technology people that come along and say, we'll do this for you. You just come up with the concept that you're looking for. And so it's really incumbent upon IT and technology people and companies to invest in these individuals and provide the resources so that we can get over that blockade that is understanding the technology and being able to work with it, and creating that collaboration between IT people and artists to sort of dive into that technology. And that's been a real challenge. You know, we've had individuals that they've got a cell phone and they know how to do that, but the idea of diving into VR is completely beyond them. So, you know, we've got to bridge that gap and help as technology people work with those artists to help them embrace a lot of the opportunities that are there within technology. I hope that makes sense.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think for me, that's why a project like this is so important, because we can't just ask artists to have great ideas about technology. We need space for that interaction to take place. I often talk about it's like a form of literacy. And I think, especially as theatre makers, we get this, right? Like, I'm a theatre director and I work. I have enough knowledge about lighting to talk to my lighting designer, but I'm not a lighting designer. And I have enough knowledge about music and sound design to talk to my composer and sound designer without being able to do the job. So we are already understand how to work with a team of experts where we have enough vocabulary to understand what's possible or probably possible, and explore together how we push it and where the edges are, and what is the best physical pathway to create something. And I think what we're trying to do with these spaces is give artists the time and space to get to know and sort of have a spin with technologies that seem exciting to them artistically, to build an understanding of what the show in the end will be. So, you know, expanding the canvas is making a series of short moments or shorts, you know, different artists are approaching this in different ways. But also we're really encouraging them to think about, so once you've done this, what's the show you want to make that comes out of this? And so this R&D space where we work together, where we explore together, where artists with their sometimes incredibly poetic language are trying to explain to technologists what it is that they're actually after and what's important about that, but also understand where the limits of the technology are, so that we're not trying to make something that's impossible, but actually finding the richness of the overlap between the theatrical concept and the possibility that technology has. Because I think when you find that, it starts to sing and it starts to feel at home with itself. So I think, for me, that obstacle can only be overcome if we all work together to create these spaces for experimentation and exchange, so that we together, the creative technologists and the performance makers together, can figure out what is it for, and also what is it not for. Some of it's just not very good, or some of it just doesn't quite produce the art that we want to see. So exploration is, I think, the answer here.
Yeah, absolutely. And so in the last couple of minutes that we have, Chris, do you want to take a minute just to say what the next few weeks looks like for this project and what the ultimate outcome might be?
So, you know, the process now is deep within sort of the creative piece. As our individuals, our creators are putting together their ideas. Then there will be a period of time where we're at the CERT Center, shooting some of the more complex technical pieces, diving into motion capture and video screens, and sort of experimenting with projection mapping at the same time that we have video screens coming along, to sort of see if we can find that balance. And sort of playing around with these ideas to see what we can come up with. And the remote workers are putting together their stuff and starting to invite individuals to participate. so that we can then gather all of that information up and record it and put it together in sort of a final demonstration piece. That demonstration piece will be accompanied by essentially a white paper and a video diary of the individual who is doing the creation and talking through their sort of process. And then the white paper is the types of technologies we use, the challenges that we came up with, and sort of really diving in to provide information. And the reason for that is it's then going to be shared out to the larger arts and culture sector. The purpose of this project is exactly to expand the canvas, and that means providing that information out to arts and culture organizations to say, look, we dove into this. Here's what we did. You can see it, you can understand what the challenges are, you can sort of look at it and figure out whether or not this is something that you want to further explore. And the purpose of the final piece actually isn't, it doesn't matter if it's a failure or if it's a success, it's an exploration. And so we know we learn just as much from the failures as we do from the successful pieces. So we might come to the conclusion that certain technologies just are not mature enough, they're not ready for prime time, or that there needs to be more exploration done around their uses. But ultimately, this project the purpose is to provide opportunities to creators who would normally never get a chance to have access to that technology, but also to educate the arts and culture sector as a whole, and really sort of provide that information out to say, here are the things that are going on, here are the technologies that are happening, and you need to be looking at this. This is new frontier, and here's a bunch of information that we have around it. Have a look, explore, understand, ask questions. And then at some point we will do probably a webinar when we have the artists on and actually showcase the pieces and talk about it. We haven't decided how we're going to finish it off, but there will be follow-ups to all of this, and we will showcase the individual pieces.
Great. So that concludes our short chat about our project. If you want to learn more about it, you can visit our website at national.ballet.ca/digital-reach. So that website, once again, is national.ballet.ca/digital-reach. We wish you a great rest of the VRHAM event. We really wish we could have been there in person, perhaps next year. And so that concludes our presentation. So take care, stay safe, and have a great rest of the conference.